Fellow auto detailers, welcome to the show that features interviews with today's most successful auto detailers. This is the Auto Detailing Podcast. Here's your host, Jimbo Balaam.
Today, guys, I'm excited to share with you something that has completely transformed the way I do business, and that is my new best friend. It's a customer relationship management software, or CRM for short, by the Better Software Company, or for short, B Pro. B Pro is the #1 all-inclusive small business management solution. Customer revenue is the lifeblood of any small business. We've talked about that a lot on the show, and that's why B Pro comes with a variety of features to help you boost your business, including email marketing. Anyone want to do that? How about lead generation? We talked a lot about that at the Detailer Marketing Bootcamp. Opportunity management? How about all those quotes that you give out? How about following up on those? B Pro will even remind you when a customer is likely ready to buy from you again. How about that? So a customer comes in for a detail. Hey, maybe in a few months, the software reminds you to follow up with that customer. Imagine that. B Pro has everything you need to run your auto detailing business in one easy-to-use solution. From customer management, invoicing, inventory for you guys that have a shop that sell products and detail cars, orders, scheduling, timesheets, all on one platform. B Pro has you covered. Only B Pro offers the same functionality on your smartphone as on your laptop. So imagine that. You're out on the road, you're out in the field, you're at your shop, wherever you are, everything's in the cloud. So it's all the same no matter where you are. Get started today by going to thebettersoftwarecompany.com. That's thebettersoftwarecompany.com. Tell them you heard about them from Jimbo on the Auto Detailing Podcast. It'll make them happy. You'll get the special treatment. All right, welcome to episode 248 of the Auto Detailing Podcast. Today we have Mike Phillips on the show. Mike is the director of training at Autogeek.com. He's written over 500 articles to his credit, and he's consistently testing and reviewing products on AutoGeekOnline.net. Mike is also the host of Autogeek's Detailing How-To videos, the Autogeek YouTube channel, the Autogeek's Detailing Tip segment, which have been featured on many hit TV shows. And then on September 12th, 2015, it was announced that Mike Phillips would be co-hosting a show on Velocity Channel called Competition Ready. And I'm sure most of you have seen that. So Mike, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time to come on.
Hey, thank you so much, Jim. Pleasure to be here.
So I want to go, when we met in person at the Benedict Car Show a couple years ago, we had a brief conversation, and you pretty much blew my mind with your journey into detailing and then forms and all that. We had a really good conversation. But can you just, for people that have never heard that story, can you kind of talk about your entry into the detailing industry and how that all began?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, let me give you the nutshell version. And because I get asked this a lot. I always get asked, how did you get started? And I think sometimes people want to hear some amazing story, but it's really just as mundane as can be, because it's just like your story and every other guy's, and even girl's story. My dad was a car guy. He was a boat guy and a motorcycle guy. He had street bikes and dirt bikes. He always had some kind of car project, besides the daily drivers in our lives, which were always usually something cool, but he always also had something else he was working on in the garage. And so I grew up around a car guy. And I got into detailing actually on the boat side because we lived in Oregon. And for those that may not know, it rains 9 months out of the year in Oregon. You get 3 months of sunshine. If you count the weekends, that's 12 weekends. And if you grow up with a dad that takes you water skiing and fishing every weekend, that's 12 weekends to go camping if it's not raining. And in Oregon, the kickoff for the summer is typically Memorial Day weekend. So what would happen is as I got older, and we're talking like 9 or 10, a couple weeks before Memorial Day weekend, I would get all excited. Hey, Memorial Day weekend's coming up. We're going to be going camping. We're going to go fishing and water skiing. So became the default job for me to get the boat ready. And I would just get all excited. And of course, we had a lot of different boats, but the one I remember the most that we had the longest was a 15-foot Hydra Swift, and it was white and yellow gel coat with the plexiglass windshield and vinyl seats. So all you guys that detail boats knows that the gel coat oxidizes, the plexiglass windshield would get all hazy looking, and the vinyl seats would get mold from being stored all winter long in a wet environment. So I would clean the seats, remove the oxidation, and restore the clarity of the windshield. So and get the boat ready. And so, but that was my job, is to get the boat ready. And of course, so that's kind of how I started. And of course, back then, this would be back in the late 60s. And back then, we didn't have all the cool tools and products you have nowadays. We didn't have the internet. And I remember Dad had the normal products. He had Armor All, DuPont rubbing compound, turtle wax, new finish, just some really mundane, basic products. And whatever he had, that's what I used. And somehow I got the job done. I'm sure if I could go back in time, it through my eyes nowadays, it would look horrible. But back then, hey, the boat shined, the boat ran, we went skiing, we went fishing. So, but that's kind of how I started. And then, of course, growing up and going into high school, it just progressed. So, being a car guy, I was the only guy in my high school that had what you could call an old car, or, to me, a cool car. I had a 1948 Plymouth Coupe that me and my dad hooked a rope onto it and pulled it out of a barn, got it running again. And after we got it running, it ran pretty good. So I saved up all my money and had it painted red, like hot rod red. Actually, the color chip number was 1976 Ford Truck Bright Red. My neighbor, where we live, owned the Ford dealership, and I went down and he let me go through the color chip books in the body shop there, and that's how I picked the color. But I wanted a hot rod red, and but that's kind of how I started. And of course, after you get it painted, then you gotta start the polishing work. So besides polishing Mom and Dad's cars, I polished all my own cars, and that's basically how I got started. But I think that's how a lot of guys get started. You get your first car, and the first thing you want to do is wash it and wax it, and make it all shiny.
Totally. And did that progress into starting your own detailing business?
It did, but back then, again, we didn't have all the resources that we have nowadays. I mean, everybody takes Facebook and the discussion forums for granted. Those things just didn't exist. What we had back then was my shop teacher, my dad, and of course your shop teacher and dad, they think they know it all, and the guys behind the counter at the local auto parts store who also think they know it all.
Right.
And so you kind of learn from them, and anybody that you might be able to run into that owns a body shop. I don't think back then there were not detailers per se, at least to the level there are nowadays. If there were, I didn't know where they were, who they were, or where they hung out. But yeah, so I started detailing Mom and Dad's cars. Then I started, of course, that always leads to the neighbors. Hey, I saw you're pretty good at that. Hey, can you do mine? Just like you mow the neighbor's lawn for $5, you detail their car for $5,
exactly.
Or $25. So it wasn't like today's, where guys are getting, big bucks for detailing cars. It was a lot more archaic back then. But then I started doing it through college, just detailing on the side to make a few bucks. And I always kept everything I personally owned shiny, and that just led to word of mouth. And so I always detailed cars ever since I was about the age of 9 or 8, whatever it was, when I started taking over the duties of maintaining Dad's boat. But that's kind of how I started.
That's awesome. And yeah, that story is similar with a few differences. I would say the biggest difference being you started with boats. Most guys, like you said, start with their own cars, but that's really interesting that you started with boats. And then how did that transition into working at Meguiar's, or where did that come from?
Well, that's another story. When I was younger, when I was in high school, I actually made friends with a kid named Eric Mauser. He's probably the only guy in the world that doesn't get on the internet. He's just not that kind of social kind of guy. But he came over to my house one time, and you got to remember, my dad was a state police. And when he would come home, he always parked the patrol car right out front in our driveway in front of the house. So everybody knew this was a cop's house.
Did you ever have
to,
sorry to interrupt. Did you ever have to polish the cop car?
No, but there's another story that my very close friends know it's funny that there seemed to be a gas leak in the patrol cars, and no one ever questioned how I was able to keep gas in my cars all the way through high school. There was a gas leak in those big old Plymouth patrol cars, and I used to go over to the boat and grab the 6-gallon boat gas tank and a siphon hose and borrow a little gas from the patrol car once in a while.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
One day my friend, One day my friend came over, this guy named Eric Mauser, and he had a 1967 Pontiac. God, what was it? A Pontiac? Wasn't a GTO. It was a I can't remember, but I'll think of it in a second. But anyway, he took the Pontiac engine out and put a big block Chevy in it, and a 4-speed and some really low gears, and painted it black, had a wild flame job and a big snorkel hood scoop. And we just made friends our senior year, and he said, "Hey, want to go for a ride in my car?" I said, "Sure." I didn't no idea really what he had. He came over to the house, the glass on the house is shaking because this thing had uncapped headers, and he took me for a ride, and that was the first time I'd been in a big block Chevy, street rod, and he just went through the gears. He just banged through all of them and just got it on, and it nailed me in the seat. And I was like, oh, so that's a big block Chevy. Right. And ever since then, I've been hooked. And when I turned 21, I bought a 1970 Sanger flat-bottom drag boat hull, and then I built up an engine and put it in it, and that's because I was hooked on big block Chevys. And one year, that boat, I was in a boating accident where my own boat ran over me, and the prop got me, and that's how I lost my leg. And after I got out of the hospital, I went back to college, because really it disrupted my life to no extent, and I had no idea what I was going to do in the future. So I went back to college, and this is how I got involved in Meguiar's. About the third term of my first year back to college, missing my leg, I went down to this local auto parts store and got a part-time job, working as a counterman, selling, spark plugs and things like that. So they had an auto parts store there, and so I was a counterman. And the guy that owned the store, his name was Jack Burkby, one of my favorite all-time guys I've worked for in my life. And he was a RDC owner for Meguiar. So an RDC owner is a regional distribution center, and there were 11 of them in America, and that's how Meguiar's went to market. Okay, nowadays all their stuff goes to a warehouse. Well, back then it didn't go to a warehouse; it went to one of these RDCs, and then they sold it to stores. So that was kind of an archaic way of doing business. But of course, here in the world, everything goes through an evolution, and that was the evolution of the RDCs to warehouses. Right. Anyway, I never really understood what an RDC was or what he did. All I knew is he had a little tiny aisle of car wax, Rain Dance, New Finish, Turtle Wax, and then he had this huge aisle with every Meguiar's product I'd ever seen or ever used. And when people would come up to the counter and say, "Hey, I just want to get this bottle of wax here for my car," and they'd bring up some junky product, I'd say, "Hey, let's walk out in the parking lot and take a look at it." I'd see what they had. I'd walk back in, show them all the Meguiar's products they needed to actually do the job right, march them up to the counter, and I'd sell them $60 or $70 worth of stuff. And after a while, Jack Burkby said to me, he says, "Hey, how do you know how to do all this stuff?" And I says, "I don't know. I just detail cars on the side. I've always detailed cars, and I use Meguiar's." So he says, "Well, how'd you like to go on a route for me and call on shops and show people in the shops what you do here?" And I had at the time, I didn't know he was asking me to become a salesman. Right. I just thought he wanted me to go show people how to polish paint. So I thought, oh, okay. So he painted this nice big Chevy box truck and loaded it all up, and he was really smart. Instead of sending me to the big city where I can make a mistake with big shops, he sent me down the Oregon coastline, calling on little tiny towns with little tiny body shops where I cut my teeth. And it just came natural. I would go in and show guys how to wet sand, cut, and buff using the Meguiar's system. And you got to understand, back then body shops would use a little bit of 3M, a little bit of DuPont, a little bit of this. They didn't really use a system, And again, we didn't have the education that we have nowadays that's out here. And everywhere I went, guys were just amazed to see what you could do using a system approach. Believe it or not, I showed so many guys in shops what a foam buffing pad was. So the foam buffing pad was invented in 1965 by a guy named Walter Cotton. But unless someone shows it to you, all you know is wool pad on rotary buffer. So I just kept calling on shops and showing people. Back then it was number 2 and 9 in the Meguiar's line. It was the first 2 products introduced to the market that actually worked on base coat, clear coat finishes, which were also brand new back in the late 80s. And it just, it turned out to be a real successful venture for me, and that's how I went to work for Meguiar's. And it started out as a part-time job as a counterman while I was going to college. It turned into a full-time job as an outside sales rep for Meguiar's, covering Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. And I did that for about 2.5 years. And then I had another opportunity come up. So at that time I left Meguiar's, and then but I never quit detailing cars. I always detailed cars, and I always taught classes for car clubs all over the state of Oregon and sometimes up in Washington. And anyway, one day I was driving down the road, I used to do these car club classes and go to car shows and do demonstrations. I always had people ask me the same question. You know, as I would run through the litany of products and show how to do all the procedures to a demo hood, someone would say, "Hey, Mike, this is really great, but is any of this stuff written down anywhere?" Because, you know, they couldn't remember everything I was telling them in the time that they were at a car show or in a detailing class. And I would say no. And I started wondering, wow, that's weird. Meguiar's has been around for so long, and, you know, no one's ever written a book on how to use their stuff. So I wrote a book. It's called The Art of Polishing Paint. I self-published it, and I sold about 1,000 copies. And one day, I was driving home in my milk truck at the time, which is a 1966 Chevy street-rotted hot rod milk truck, and I just got this thing called a cell phone. And the person that called me was Barry Meguiar. And he called me up and said, "Hi, my name's Barry Meguiar. Is this Mike Phillips?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Hey, I hear you wrote a book about my products." And I go, "Well, yeah." And I'm thinking, oh, my God, I'm in trouble. You know,
yeah, what now?
Here's the president of some company.
Yeah.
I'm going to get sued. I'm going to be in jail. And anyway, he says, "You know, I'd really like to read that book. Why don't you do me a favor? Just rip out the first 4 chapters and mail them to me." And so I did just that. I just literally ripped out the first 4 chapters, put them in a manila envelope, and I actually sent them down to Mike Pennington, who later on became my manager when I went to work at Meguiar's the second time. And about a week later, he called me up and said, "Hey, how'd you like to come down to Meguiar's for a job interview?" And I said, "Well, sure, I'd like that because, you know, I liked the job I had, but I'd love to go back to work for Meguiar's. That was a great gig." And I went down there, and anyway, long story shorter, he said, "How'd you like to come to work for me as a writer?" He says, "I've tried to hire professional college-educated writers to write copy for my company, but they have no passion." He says, "I end up rewriting everything they write, or it just can't be used, so I end up doing all the writing myself, and I don't have that kind of time anymore." And so I said, "Sure." So in 2002, I moved from Oregon to Irvine, California, and my official title was corporate writer. And I did that job for 1 year. And so all you guys listening to this, you know, you got to understand, in 2002, this thing called the discussion forum was still brand new. The internet was still fairly brand new.
Yeah.
vBulletin, which is the forum software most forums use, was just released commercially in 2002. From 2000 to 2001, it was a beta. You could get it for free, download it, set it up, and try to work the bugs out of it. And so these forums started taking off, and I was hanging out on a forum called Mercedes Shop for Mercedes owners, and I kept looking and reading these posts and interacting with these guys, and these guys, they were close, but they had so many things wrong. So I said, "Hey, why don't you guys come on down here to Meguiar's garage here and let's have a detailing class?" And I asked for permission first, and Meguiar said yes. So I held the first Detailing 101 class at Meguiar's garage, coordinated through a discussion forum on July 31st, 2002. And 25 guys showed up, and we just went through the basics: how to wash, how to clay, how to remove swirls, how to machine wax, using the Porter Cable DA and real basic Meguiar's products. And what I didn't realize was a whole bunch of the guys that were there from the Mercedes Shop forum were also guys that were members on the BMW and the Lexus and the Ford forums. And the next week, I started getting phone calls asking me, "Hey, Mike, when can our club come down?" And it just snowballed. And within a few months, Meguiar's came to me and said, we like what you're doing in the writing department, but we like what you're doing on the internet and detailing out in the garage and teaching classes. So would you just write your own your job description? And so I I know. So I crafted a job description, and it, basically said, well, this position, the person would run the discussion forum and would teach the classes and be kind of the how-to information guy for Meguiar's. And I was going to say, actually, this is kind of funny.
Did the title fit on a business card? Because if you're used to writing copy, that could be a long title.
Yeah, what's funny is the title they gave me for that position was called Internet Technical Specialist, and I always thought that sounded like a guy that swaps servers out in a computer room, Mm-hmm. But anyway, I added a huge chunk of money to my then really nice salary, and this is the funny part. They came back and said, well, we like everything you wrote down in the description, but we don't like this salary here. So without missing a beat, I said, well, that's okay, because I really love my job writing, so I'm happy just to stay here.
Oh, wow. And,
nice. I know, without missing. Oh, yeah. So the guy that actually came in and talked to me is no longer with us. He was one of my mentors, but his name was Dick Koth. And Dick says, well, tell you what, let me go back. He was in another room meeting with people. Let me go back and talk to him and, see what we can do. And in about 2 minutes, he come back and says, okay, you can have it. Whatever you want, just get out there and start doing that stuff you do.
Wow.
And that was in 2002, and then it took us until 2004 to bring the Meguiar's online discussion forum up, and then I just stayed busy full time teaching classes and writing articles and answering detailing questions on Meguiar's online. And fast forward to 2009, Megan, who works here at Autogeek, had called me and says, hey, we have this show out here in Florida at Autogeek called Detail Fest. It says, we'd like to know if you'd like to come out here and teach that Detailing 101 class you teach for Meguiar's here at Detail Fest. And I said, well, I don't think management will go for it, but I'll ask. And I didn't think they would go for it, but I asked, and they said, sure, go ahead. So I came out here and did my Detailing 101 class in a tiny little garage here at Autogeek. And when it was all over, Bob McKee, that's the founder, the CEO of Autogeek, he invited me back to his office and said, I have been looking for a guy like you. How'd you like to come work for me?
Wow.
And, and I was like, well, I don't know. Man, I got a pretty good gig back there in California. I work from home. The only time I go down to the office is to teach the classes or for a meeting a couple times a month. And, it's a pretty good job. I really like it. And he says, well, you can do all that for me, and I'll give you a TV show. And as soon as he said that, my first thoughts were, wow. I love showing 25 to 30 guys in a class how to detail cars, but the potential to show, thousands of people, millions of people on TV how to detail cars, to me, that was powerful.
Had you ever thought about
once
that
he made
before?
that offer.
Had you ever thought about, had that been running in the back of your head of man, if I could duplicate, because to get 25 guys to show up in a fixed location in 2002 from the internet is pretty impressive. And then to duplicate that over and over and over is really impressive. So were your gears already spinning back then of man, if I could do this on TV, this would be ginormous, or not really?
Yeah, no, I'd always thought about that. Okay. I always tell people, I've typed a lot of things out over the internet. Luckily for me, I'm what you would call a speed type. It's not like some people I met that do 120 words a minute and things like that. But I am a pretty fast typist. I can type faster than I can think, so that's fast enough. But one of the things I always type in the forum world is I have two passions. One is I like to detail cars, okay, and the other one is I like to show other people how to detail cars. And that'll kind of goes back to when I was younger, and I told you I had that 1948 Plymouth Coupe, and it ran pretty good. So what I did is I got it painted. Well, after I got it painted, I was racing it one night and I blew up the engine, and that's when I really learned this passion, because I knew what to do, but I meet a lot of people that when it comes to working on their car's paint, they didn't know what to do. And I remember what that was like, so I'm empathetic, but that's my passion, is showing other people how to do it right. And one of the reasons why is because this as well as anybody else in the detailing world, car paint is thin. You know, you don't have a lot of room for error.
Right.
And it's also time consuming. Like, you don't want to compound an entire car and then stand back and look at it and go, wow, that looks horrible, and then have to do it again. You want to do it once and do it right.
But
and
we've never done that.
If you do it wrong,
we've never done that.
Yeah, well, but when you would do it wrong, not only does it not look good, but you took paint off needlessly.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
You don't have a lot of paint to work with. So you don't want to be wasting your time and doing things that are wrong. And, you know, in a bunch of my how-to books, like you always see these pictures of me holding a 3M Post-it note between my forefinger and my thumb. And the average Post-it note's about 3 mils thick, while the factory clear coat, not custom paint jobs, but the factory clear coat is around 2 mils thick. So all you got to do is hold a Post-it note between your fingers for your brain to go, wow, that's really thin. And then all of a sudden, it drives the point home how important it is to use good products. And I always refer to the term abrasive technology. You know, whoever's brand of compound polish or cleaner wax you're using, you want to make sure they're using good abrasive technology so it removes defects without leaving its own defect in the original defect's place. And but anyways, then I went back, and this is even funnier. I went back and I asked for a meeting with Barry Meguiar, and out of the 7 years I'd worked for Meguiar's, I had never asked for a meeting with Barry Meguiar. So he was at the Car Crazy TV studios, and when I was told to go over there to meet him, he walked out and he looked at me and he just says, wow, whoa, what's up? It must be important. You've never asked for a meeting before. And then all of a sudden this pressure's on me. Oh my gosh, I'm going to quit. I go, well, Barry, I have this job offer, and I'd really like to take it, but I'd only want to take it if I had your blessing. And you know, people say their jaw dropped. His jaw literally just dropped. He just looked at me and goes, "You're kidding me? You want to leave us?" And then I felt worse. I'm like, oh, I don't want to leave you. I love my job, but I have a chance to do a TV show. You know, and he came back and he said, "Tell you what, Mike. I got to travel overseas. Give me a week to come back with a counter offer. Would you do that?" And I go, "Sure, yeah." Wow. So a week later, we all met. It was funny. Everybody's in this big room, human resources, all the managers are on this big glass table that's held up by these 2 Indy racing engines. You know, that's the cool office
I've sat at
Meguiar's.
that table. I've sat there.
Have you? Yeah.
Yeah, with the glass. It's got the glass wall on one side. Yes, I've sat there.
And the Recaro seats and stuff. Yeah.
It's an amazing room.
Sorry, it is. Well, he held up this. It's okay. He held up this thick manila envelope, and here's what he said. He says, "Mike, we've got a lot of great things in here for you, but I got to be honest. There is no TV show, and if your heart is set on doing that TV show, we want you to go, and you can have our blessings. But I don't even want to share what's in here. We'll just culminate things, and like I said, you've got our blessing." Wow. And, you know, that put me in a really tough position in front of all these people because, you know, I didn't want them to make them think I didn't like my job. I loved my job. But I says, look, you know, once someone made the offer, if I don't try, if I don't take it,
absolutely,
I know I'll always look back and regret it.
Yes.
So I have to go try. And if I fail, I fail, but I have to at least try. Mm-hmm. And he respected that. And then I ended up at Autogeek, and man, I tell you, it's hard to believe, but that was 2009. It's 2016, so I'm on my 7th year now here at Autogeek.
Wow. So was that TV show that they talked about then, was that competition ready or no?
No, that was called What's in Autogeek's Garage, and that was put on by a production company. That was produced by a production company called Masters Production, and anyway, that one there, here's what I can just say is the first time you do something, you're usually not very good at it. And
all you got to do is go listen to episode. All you got to do is go back and listen to episode 1 of the Auto Detailing Podcast, Mike.
Yeah. So that was a huge learning curve. It was a huge learning curve for us. And the TV shows are still up on YouTube. You can go watch them. We did 2 seasons. I think there were 12 episodes in each season. We worked on some amazing cars. But it really ended up not being the direction we wanted to go TV, so we withdrew from that aspect of the business for a time. Mm-hmm. And you know, everything's timing. Everything's timing. Everything happens at the right reason at the right time. And then we had this opportunity to do a new TV show. Only now we're working with BCII, and these are the people that created Overhauling. Okay, plus you know, a dozen other shows, and Chip Foose's show Overhaul has to be probably one of the most successful car guy TV shows ever. Yeah. And so now we're working with BCII, and I'm happy to say just a few weeks ago we announced that we'll start filming our 2nd season, and we actually started filming in October. Yeah.
Congratulations!
Well, thank you. And one of the things I really like doing is in my business is I like to use the word showcase. Okay, so if a new wax comes out, I like to showcase the wax. Put it on a car. Go to the how-to information and show the before and after results. I also like to showcase people. On our first TV show, I had the opportunity to have two local detailers on the TV show, and I did. And on this new TV venture, I think I've had close to 100 people, detailers, on the show. A lot of these are members of the IDA, the International Detail Association, and a lot of these were people that have taken my 3-day detailing class. And, so they're, certified by me, or they've, went through my class. So I'm comfortable with turning them loose on $1 million cars to machine buff them.
Right.
And, I didn't know how the first season was going to roll out, but when I saw the first episode, it shows the detailer, his name, his business name, and how many years he's been in business. And I tell you, that's powerful marketing for a detailer, to have that kind of presence on a TV show on Velocity Channel. So I think that's probably one of the most rewarding parts, was being able to share this fun with other detailers.
Yeah, that's amazing to see, and that's what actually, it's funny that you mentioned that about their name and their company name and all that, because that was the first thing I realized. And what was cool is that guys that were getting featured like that would take the screenshot or take a picture of the screen or whatever, and then share that on their social media pages. But what I love, what it's trying to do through the show and the IDA, we've had Rob on the show a couple times, is that it's really trying to create this uniformity within the industry that is, I think everyone would agree, lacking a little bit, and it may always be there a little bit, but I love that it's bringing this kind of this standard to the industry and really trying to lift up the industry as a whole. And I think the show, Competition Ready, really will help with that too, especially when it comes to the normal retail market for guys as well.
And that is the genius behind Bob McKee. So every time I've sat in a meeting with him, one of his primary goals is to elevate the status of detailers, so people don't just think they're a car washer. To lift up their status, present them as a respectable trade in the industry, of people that are educated and talented, have a lot of skills, and above all, have a lot of passion, and do the right thing, because we both know the difference between a hack detailer and someone that knows what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So that was one of his goals, was to elevate this industry, or this business in the industry, these people. So yeah, that makes it really fun to be a part of. And as someone that grew up, detailing cars and knowing that, people, until they know how good work you do, they probably just think you're, some hack or some car washer. They come out and look at their car and go, wow, that looks amazing. And all of a sudden, they can see that there's more to it than just wax on, wax off, like the Karate Kid always said. So.
Exactly. Mike, it's funny. I feel how that same feeling that you had when you sat in your buddy's car with the big block Chevy engine in it and you got blown back in your seat. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I feel right now. I feel like I just got blown back in my seat from you in a master class of like the history of detailing. So I'm a little bit speechless, which is weird, but I know you have a couple key points that you wanted to touch on. So why don't we get into that now? Some of the things that you really wanted to talk about.
Well, I do have a little list here I thought I'd share. First of all, like I did mention, we'll start shooting the second season of our TV show in October. And that'll run all the way through March. We'll be going to different locations, working on a lot of different cars. And of course, I'm going to be putting together teams for each episode. So now's the opportunity to put even more of my fellow detailers on the big screen and give them, like they say, their 15 minutes of fame.
Sure.
But, I need guys that know what they're doing. We're going to be working on some really nice rides again. And, I got to be able to trust you. So,
right.
And people always ask me, hey, Mike, how can I be on the TV show? Well, the number one thing is if you've attended my 3-day class. I mean, you're automatically in if you've done that. And I know a lot of people don't, that's something that's out of their reach at this point. the other thing is if you're an active member of the Autogeek forum, I know you because you post and you share your work. I know I can trust you because I can see the things you do, and I can when you post a lot to a discussion forum, your personality, your ethic, your character is revealed over time.
Yes.
So if you go up and you got one post and say, "Hey, Mike, pick me," I don't know you.
Right.
But if I see you've got 2,000 posts, and every time I turn around, you're sharing another car and the process you use, I know what the heck you're doing.
Right.
So that's another reason. I try to draw from the IDA also. Anybody that's a member of the IDA, to me, they've made a commitment to elevate the industry and maintain a professional character as in their business for the world to see. So that's important to me too. So those are the three criteria that I use. Sometimes the sponsors of the TV show have their people they want on, and that works out well too because usually these guys are detailers. So I just got an email from Yancey. Yancey is our incredibly talented videographer. His title is Creative Director. He just uploaded all 8 episodes of the first season of Competition Ready to our YouTube channel.
Awesome.
So if anybody listening to this in the future wants to go watch them, you see, we couldn't release them until after the first season aired. That's a Velocity rule, not an Autogeek rule. Velocity, they're a powerful network. They're owned by Discovery, and they say jump, you say how high. So they told us you can't release these till after the second season airs. That date was August 29th was the official release date. So now just today they went up on YouTube. The other thing I wanted to share is, go ahead.
No, I was gonna link that up in the show notes. So is that on? Does Competition Ready have its own YouTube channel, or is that going to be on Autogeek's YouTube channel?
We have our own website, which is competitionreadytv.com.
Okay.
And those videos will be up there, but they won't be up there today because we're working through another company that maintains that website. That's kind of out of our control. But they'll be on the Autogeek YouTube, which is youtube.com/Autogeek.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure. I'm going to link that up in the show notes. So I just wanted to make sure I had the right link there. But go on.
Yeah. The other thing is going back to Detail Fest, our car show, this coming March will be the 12th annual Detail Fest. And this year it's new and exciting that we're moving it from the grounds here at Autogeek to the Convention Center in Palm Beach. It's 100,000 square feet of air-conditioned inside room. So no fear of a rain date. Yeah, it's big time. It was really meant... Yeah, no humidity and no sweating and air conditioning, no fear of rain. But it's like hitting the big time. I mean, it's become the Detail Fest show has really become. Some people call it SEMA on the East because it's different than a car show since we have so many manufacturers of the products that we use in the industry represented there, plus a car show. And now our celebrity list has grown. Let me see if I can just name the names: Wayne Carini, Chris Jacobs, Christy Lee, AJ, Adrian Janik, Dennis Gage, Bruno Massel, Matt Steele, the guy from Americana. That's why I hate when I have to name things off. I don't think it puts a block in your brain. But Ray Evernham, and these are the TV stars that come here, and Barry Meguiar, and they just hang out. And the difference is sure, these guys are at a lot of car shows, but the car shows usually are so big, you never find these guys.
Exactly.
And ours is more small town, more grassroots. And you'll be walking around and bump into Barry Meguiar or bump into Chris Jacobs. And now here's your chance to ask him what his favorite Mopar car is, or get your picture with Christy Lee. And so that just makes our show so much fun. Well, I'm usually working. Let's see what else we got going on. If anybody is interested, I'm so proud to say that Autogeek has given me the resources to really put on a first-class detailing class. When I worked for Meguiar's, I brought up their Detailing 101 and their Detailing 102 classes. They always have done education, but I brought these up coordinated through forums, and I'm happy to say that the guy that took my place, Mike Stoops, he continued them, and now they have another young gentleman as Mike Stoops has moved up in the ranks. His name is Nick His last name forgets me, but they got another guy that's taken over the forum, and he's continuing to teach these classes. So something I started there back in 2002 continues through till today. And when I came here, Bob McKee, the first thing he did was he built the Autogeek's show car garage. And it's went through an evolution, and now it's twice the size. And I have enough room in my classroom to hold 30 people comfortably in air-conditioned room. And we turn the air conditioning down to like 68 and freeze you out of here when you're working on your car, so no one ever gets hot. But it's nice and comfortable. You spread, you got your own desk, your own chair, place to sit, and then I still got room to bring in 2 cars and easily walk around them, and we wired it. See, a lot of people don't understand what it takes to put on a real professional class. We had to rewire the building so you can fire up 24 rotary buffers and have 24 guys pushing hard against cars and not blow a fuse in air conditioning. So and then light it up, and so the resources, I got all the tools, I got all the chemicals, I got all the pads, and I got the lighting, I got the air conditioning. So the resources that Bob's given me to put on really a top flight class is something that's also incredibly rewarding if that's your passion, is to show people how to detail cars.
I do have kind of
one
a
of the
random
things I like.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Finish this thought,
Sure.
and then I have a random question that's kind of a sidetrack.
Well, then the other thing that I like to do, because I'm a forum guy, is I like to share all the pictures. So I usually document the cars before we work on them, the process we used in the class, and then the after results. And because I kind of like street rods and muscle cars, that's the cars I usually tend to bring in for the first day. I call the first day show car detailing. All guys want to learn to do show car detailing.
Right.
And how can you learn on a 2002 Malibu? You got to work on a 1957 Chevy Bel Air, which is a show car, to learn show car detailing. And so that's what I bring in. I bring in 10 cars for the first day, and we go through all the tools. Saturday is production detailing, because that's important, and I bring in mundane daily drivers, but it's still important. And then Sunday is wet sanding by hand, wet sanding by machine, and then I also cover how to use hot water steamers and the hot water extractors, and we also kind of use it as a catch-up day for anything we may have missed on the first 2 days. So the resources that, of course, when you sell everything in the world, a lot of people don't know this, so let me just clarify this. Autogeek is the world's largest online supplier of car detailing supplies. There's no one bigger, and for me, that's just the bonus, because I can walk out in the warehouse and whatever it is you're thinking about using, we got it on the shelf. Tools, pads, and chemicals.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And that shows how much knowledge you can have, and you do have, because you have all these chemicals and different products at your fingertips that you could test and try, and have done that. What I was going to ask is something that I've been thinking about with the evolution of the internet and stuff like Facebook groups. Where do you see forums going? Do you see them going anywhere? And where do you see their place with stuff like Facebook groups and all that? I have no idea. To be honest, I'm not that big in forums, but I'm in all these Facebook groups that act kind of similar to forums, I guess. But where do you see forums going, if anywhere? Maybe they're growing. I don't know. But since you've kind of were there at the beginning of forums and you see it, the progression of them, what is the future progression of them, I guess?
Well, and that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. And so here's my take on it. Facebook is popular because it makes it's an easy interface, so anybody with a smartphone can create an account and then start sharing information on Facebook if you got a thumb. If you got a smartphone with a thumb, all of a sudden you're an expert. And if you take a picture with your phone, it's easy to upload it through the Facebook interface. So Facebook makes it real easy to share your opinion, share a picture, show what you're doing, and I think that's great because that just disseminates information. To me, the most important thing is to always try to do it in a professional way. And
Right.
sometimes I see that's one of the things that's lacking. But that's luckily, like to say, that's a small percentage of the population. Most guys that are out there are actually very professional. But the downside of Facebook is I write a lot of how-to articles, and in the how-to articles, here's how the brain works. when you're reading text, it helps to have a bold caption or a heading, how to remove overspray. That's the heading. And then the text below it is in normal font, which gives you the information. Your eyes scan down a page, see the heading. Hey, that's what I was looking for. Then they read the text, then you look at the pictures. With Facebook, when you type in these little tiny message boxes, you can't format text, and you can't in a linear fashion add text, then a picture, add text, then a picture. So the text describes what you're seeing in the picture. You can put all the text up there and then lump all the pictures into a collection, and then hopefully people can read it and sort it out. So to me, it's a horrible way to learn any in-depth information. But if a person just wants to write like a sentence or a paragraph and add a picture, it works for that. So for intense or real heavy learning, the forum works better for that. For conversation, Facebook works better for that.
Okay.
So I think they both have their strengths and weaknesses. And my personal opinion is the forums will never go away. And primarily what I usually do is I still write a lot of articles and share them on both venues. But a lot of times what I'll do is if I got something I want to share on Facebook, I'll share portions of the information and then have a link that goes to the actual article on the forum, just because it's displayed in a way that a person can absorb the information in a way that they can retain it. And see, how-to articles are worthless if a person doesn't read it and learn it. So that's the key to writing well, is explaining things in a way that a person can absorb it and then go out in the garage and do it.
Right.
So.
And I see something that you mentioned earlier when we were talking about how you look for guys for the TV show to have them on, and you try to find their credibility and all that through the forums and stuff, and how you could see their true character. The character, man, that's something that I see that guys, a word of warning for anyone out there listening, was watch your character on these Facebook forums, because I see some guys that it's just like, oh man, if your customer saw that, or you don't know who's seen this in Facebook land, and I'm guilty of it too, of kind of getting caught up in it, but it's like, man, just watch your character on Facebook and the forums. You never know who's watching. It could make you miss out on a huge opportunity, like being on your TV show.
Yeah, well, one thing is for me, I have a good memory, so
yeah, no kidding. You could remember
an
exact date from like 1960.
What's funny is I only remember detailing stuff. Ask my wife and she'll say, "I told you to stop at this store and get some salad." I forgot, But if hey, this wax came out in 1978 and it's made with Zillium.
Yeah,
that stuff just locks into my brain. Yeah. But I have a really good memory for people that you don't want to be associated with, and I got a great memory for the guys I do want to be associated with. And I think that's one of the things I like about the IDA, though, because they have these these guidelines or these rules of how you have to conduct yourself to be a member. And I've noticed the IDA really all the people that belong to the IDA are already of a professional character to start with. Otherwise, they wouldn't be attracted to the group in the first place.
Right.
So,
do you have any additional?
But I think there's room for both. So.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any additional bullet points on your list?
A couple things I think I would like to share if you don't mind, since we're up here.
Not at all.
Autogeek always has a large presence at SEMA every year. And so if I know SEMA is kind of like the mecca for car guys to go to. And if you've never been, like everybody says, wear comfortable shoes. It'll take you 3 or 4 days to walk the entire show. I would recommend not bringing your wallet or you'll be bankrupt. But we have a huge presence there. And if you do happen to make it to SEMA, please come by the Autogeek booth and say hi. We always have guest celebrities there to sign autographs. I always have a black hood. I typically will stand there and sand it down and buff it out and sand it down and buff it out under intense lights for 4 days in a row and answer questions. And I always enjoy that. We have, for those of you in the California area, there's a car show coming up called it's called the Classic Auto Show, and Autogeek is the title sponsor. And the day for this show this year is in January. And let's see, the day for that is the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, and the 29th. And I'm really honored that I'm going to be a part of a team of guys that will be at this show taking participating in a lot of the events that have to do with the show. But here's the list of those people: Chip Foose, Chris Jacobs, Mike Brewer, Wayne Creaney, and David Kindig. You know, of course, Chris Jacobs and Chip Foose are famous from their show Overhauling. Mike Brewer is one of the hosts, along with Ed China, for Wheeler Dealer. Wayne Creaney hosts Chasing Classic Cars, and Dave Kindig has his own show called Bitchin' Rides. So to me, that's going to be just a blast, going out there and hanging out with these 5 guys, you know, for 3 days in a row and dinking around working on cars. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And that's at the LA Convention Center?
So that'll be up there. That's at the LA Convention Center. So if you're going to be out there, swing on by and say hi.
I'm going to have to come out to that. That'll be cool. Man, you're just like convention center to convention center, huh?
Well, we've got a lot of things going on. You know, next week we're taking off to Germany to go to Automechanica.
Wow. Awesome.
And, and I've always wanted to go to this show. I remember always hearing Barry Meguiar talk about it because he would go to it every year. I don't know if he still does, but I know he did it one time. And so I've always wanted to go. And this year our sponsors that are taking us to that show are Sonax and Flex. So a huge shout out to Sonax and Flex. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to all the good food in Germany as a part of the trip.
Have you ever been over there?
We'll also get a... Oh, yeah. Flex took me over to Germany, and I got a tour of the building. I was the first guy that they ever let take pictures of their manufacturing process and share them. And so they're bringing me back over. Me and Nick and Yancey here at Autogeek, we're all traveling over there, leaving on the 10th, and we'll be there for a whole week. But we're going to revisit the Flex plant. I'll write a new article, take new pictures showing the new tools that are being made there and how they're made and how the quality goes into them. Then we're going to the Automechanica show, which for those of you that don't know, that's like the European version of SEMA, only I've been told it's 3 times as big. So a lot of walking going to be going on there. And then after the show, we're going to the Sonax manufacturing plant, their corporate headquarters. We get a tour of that, and I've been told I'm going to be able to take pictures there and possibly share them. So either way, I'll share a big full write-up on the forum, and of course, share it also on Facebook. So that's going to be real exciting.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, keep going. If there's anything else.
Yeah, another thing, just to let you know, is we just got back from England. Me and Yancey went over, and we went to our first Wax Stock show to represent Autogeek. And I got to tell you, if you've heard about Wax Stock but never been, this is another one of those bucket list events, kind of like Detail Fest. You've got to get over there and go to it. At this time, it's a one-day show, but I see this thing growing just like Detail Fest has. Wow. And it's an amazing show. And I got to tell you, after talking on Detailing World, which is like the largest UK detailing forum for years with all these guys, it is so much fun to go over and meet these people and put a face to an avatar.
Yeah, no kidding.
And, meet the people behind the avatars. And we also scheduled a detailing class. And we got together here at Autogeek and said, hell, if we're going all the way over there, let's detail a class. And we made friends with this gentleman named Aki, who owns the Buff Monkey Garage. And we put the word out that we were going to hold a hands-on detailing class. I had 26 guys sign up, so the class sold out. And I was able to get 6 street rods into this full purpose-built detail shop and hold a hands-on class just like I teach here in the States. And instead of using, again, mundane daily drivers, we had 6 street rods. I mean, we had a 1957 Pontiac Starfire with a big block Chevy. We had a 1950 Pontiac Silver Streak, a 65 Mustang, a 79 Trans Am, a 1954 Chevy pickup, and a 1937 Chevy Ford Slantback street rod. So, I mean, some really nice stuff that somehow made its way from America over there to car guys over there. And we had a chance to buff them all out and take, swirled out, oversprayed finishes and turn them into flawless show car finishes.
Wow.
So that was a lot of fun.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. Do you have anything else on your list?
Got a couple other things just because I'm reaching an audience that maybe I don't always reach.
Let's do it.
Okay, well, if anybody's interested in boat detailing, going back to my roots, being not only a boat detailer, but also a guy that used to race drag boats, and of always been passionate about boats. I teach a boat detailing class here at Autogeek once a year, and the timing for this is usually in February. And the reason for that is it's well before the start of the boating season for either a boat owner or a boat detailer. And it's also after the Stewart Boat Show, which we promote this class at the Stewart, local people. And this will be the third professional class. Professional mean getting paid for what you do.
Right.
But this is the third professional class. I've held boat classes where people just show up and we do it for free. But this is a professional class. You get a notebook with an outline that goes through the steps, and I teach everything in one day on one boat. And I bring in the worst conditioned boat I can get my hands on. We're talking major oxidation, and I go through every step in. So we cover hand sanding, machine sanding, rotary buffers, all the DA polishers, the Flex, the Rupes, the Porter Cable, the Griots, and of course we show the inside and outside, cleaning non-skid, metal polishing, removing mold off of canvas and vinyl. And basically, we take something that this looks like it's ready for the, to be sunk at sea and turn it back into a brand new boat.
Wow.
And it's interesting, the people that come to this. I had a guy fly here from Israel last year to attend this class. And I have guys from, usually there's about 1/3 of the guys are local and about 2/3 fly in from around the country. And it's really, as far as my research can tell, it's the only boat detailing class that's hands-on and covers everything that you would need to do to resurrect a dead boat. So it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Sounds really cool.
Then one other thing I just want to point out is Autogeek, when you talk about Facebook groups, we recently did go ahead and start a Facebook group, okay? So we have, we want to be able to reach out to people no matter what kind of electronic device they're using. Some people may not get on a computer, but they get on their smartphone, so Facebook works better for smartphones. And that's basically a place for asking questions, and I share how-to articles up there. And tonight is the first time we're doing the Autogeek game show, or not tonight, but this Friday night. So as you and me are talking, it's September 1st, a Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday evening, and we're doing a live broadcast over Facebook. There's going to be 3 contests with 5 prizes for each contest. And it's something that anybody with a smartphone can just watch online, take a guess at the question and answer it, and if they win, they get a prize. And in the future, we'll be moving these to Thursday nights, but I foresee this as something that we'll be doing, frequently now as a way to interact with the online detailing community and have some fun. So,
is that going to be on the Autogeek Facebook page, or is that going to be in the Detailing 101 by Autogeek?
That's the Detailing 101, the Facebook group, yeah.
Okay. So I'll link that up in the show notes too, and that's going to be an ongoing thing. So if guys, okay, cool. So if guys hear this and they're like, "Oh, that was 2 weeks ago," whoops.
Yeah.
So,
big picture is we got a lot going on.
Yeah, no kidding. Sounds like it. But that's cool, and there's all these different ways to connect. If people want to connect with you directly or with Autogeek or follow all these things, we mentioned a lot of it that I'll also link up in the show notes page. But if they want to find you on Facebook, find you on the forums, how do they do that?
If you go to Google and type something like car detailing Mike Phillips, I think everything pulls up.
That's awesome.
One of the things I've always done is I put a lot of pictures up, and I keyword every picture.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm pretty easy to find. You can always call Autogeek and get my extension, which is 206. I get questions all day long from all over the place, but mostly detailing. If I got $1 for every time I told someone how to remove swirls out of their paint job, I'd be as rich as Warren Buffett.
Because you'd be on a beach.
But a lot of people don't get on the forum or don't do Facebook, and they just want to know how to polish up their paint. Yeah. So if they email me or call me, I'm always happy to stop and walk them through the process. Just no big deal.
That's awesome.
But Autogeek.com, AutogeekOnline.net, and my email, if anybody wants to contact me, it's fairly simple. It's just Mike.Phillips@Autogeek.net. So
perfect. And I want to thank you, Mike, for taking an hour out of your busy schedule to come on the show and share all the information and stories. I love stories, man. If there's one thing that I love talking about, it's just pastime stories and hearing people's journey in and how they've maneuvered and progressed through the industry. And so you've done a master class at that, and I just want to thank you for that.
Well, thanks, Jimbo. And kind of on that note, on sharing stories, on my to-do list is to write a coffee table book. I'm sitting in my office here at Autogeek, and I have what I call the wall of waxes. And I collect antique waxes, antique polishers, anything that's kind of related to the detailing industry. But not only do I have these products sitting over here, I usually know the story behind them. Wow. I'm lucky enough, like I said, I memorize. My brain is, I can't remember what wife told me this morning, but I can memorize things about the detailing industry, the people, the projects, the places, anything that went on. And one of these days, I'd really like to put together a coffee table book that just kind of shares how the industry has progressed, at least since I've been involved, starting in the 1970s,
That'd be amazing.
And I think a lot of people would like that.
They would.
Yeah. And I've got the pictures. I got the pictures,
Yes.
I got 2 old laptops full of pictures of the things that have happened dating back to old SEMA shows, the first car shows I taught at Meguiar's, whatever it is, I still got all the pictures. So I got the products, the pictures, and I know the people, and I know the stories. Like I mentioned, Walter Cotton invented the foam pad in 1965. I've got one of the original foam pads. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, wow.
So I've got all this stuff, and I just love to put it all together and just kind of to memorialize it because what'll happen is one of these days I won't be here, and then
right.
All these other people won't be here. Then I think this stuff will all be forgotten, and I think I'd like to capture it, in a book somehow.
Yeah, and this is really random, but if you Google Meguiar's #2 and go to images, I think there's images of you and Barry Meguiar and Karen in front of your wax
wall
collection.
of waxes.
Yep, wall of waxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
for Detail Fest, Barry and Karen came into my office, and Barry wanted to see my antique wax collection, and it was pretty cool because I have products that he doesn't even remember they made.
Oh wow!
Like I've got the only bottle I've ever seen is called Aircraft Cleaner, and what's interesting is I actually got all the old catalogs. I think I've got every single catalog they ever put out for everything, just because I collect stuff like that. But they made 4 products in what they call the aircraft line, and I have one of them, and I've never seen the other 3 ever. Never seen them.
Is that the one? And it looks like a gallon bottle, maybe, with a blue label, or is that
no? That's actually my prized possession. That's Mirror Bright. Let's see, I got to get down and look at the name on it here. It's called the Mirror Bright Machine Cleaner. So this is the predecessor to what you would call #2.
Okay.
Yeah, which became Fine Cut Cleaner. It's kind of the predecessor. And the thing that makes that unique is on the label it says Mirror Bright instead of Mirror Glaze. And so that means it was made before World War II, because when World War II took place, the government put an austerity program in that said you could not raise the price of your products. And at the time, the price of raw materials were going up because of the war, and Meguiar's couldn't make a profit at the price point they were selling their current products. Since they couldn't raise the price, they just introduced a new brand instead of Mirror Bright. Hey, look, it's Mirror Glaze, and here's the new price point. Genius.
That's awesome.
I got stories.
Yeah, no kidding. And we'll definitely have to do this again. Maybe we could set time aside. Or I'll come to the SEMA booth or something, and we'll get another 10 minutes in or 15 minutes for stories, because I love stories. I'm a sucker for stories. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Auto Detailing Podcast. Head on over to autodetailingpodcast.com for full show notes and links of everything that we've talked about today. And don't forget to check out our resources page for a direct link to all the products talked about not only on today's episode, but that I use in my day-to-day detail business. They have direct links so you can purchase and get free shipping right from that page. That's autodetailingpodcast.com. We'll see you on the next episode.